Brian, do you have 5 minutes?
Hi, thank you. I'm a resident of Ward 2. I live near Kipling and the Westway, and I cycled the 6.6 kilometers to get here today. I saw Councillor Nunziata as I arrived, and I did the same on Monday when we had a town hall that Councillor Holiday and Councillor Morley co-hosted. So I just want to make a point that people do cycle year-round in most of Toronto, except on snowy and icy days. On the way here, I encountered an accident on Martin Grove, a 3-car accident. There were several fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars there. And about a week ago on January 5th, there was a very violent accident near where I live. 4-car accident. At least one person was taken away in an ambulance. 2 of the cars were street racing. So this tells me that, you know, our streets are designed in an unsafe way, and these accidents are violent. They scare people. This accident happened at the corner of Martin Grove and the Westway with a hockey rink nearby. There were parents with children, either walking from there or walking to the plaza. So it traumatizes everyone who witnesses this. I think one of the drivers fled the scene, and another one was trying to flee the scene, but somebody stood in front of his car as he was trying to back away and flee, and he put himself at risk, but the police arrived and arrested the person. So anyway, I want to say that, you know, cars are a problem not only for safety, but as we know, for climate change, and that's a major concern of mine. I helped 2 years ago to found Etobicoke Climate Action, an all-volunteer group. And as you know, transportation contributes about 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions. And we simply have to keep trying harder to figure out how to reduce car use, to provide alternatives, to make walking and cycling safer, to redesign our communities so that they are something closer to this ideal of 50-minute communities, to increase transit, increase the motivation to use transit. And unfortunately, this 10-cent per ride increase seems to be affecting people who have the least income for the most part, people who can't afford to pay for the monthly pass. They don't have that money at the beginning of the month. So that seems kind of damaging to the most vulnerable part of the TTC customer base. So we want transit to become more and more attractive so that we use cars less. And if how we communicate that in a positive way that doesn't seem like it's taking away things from people, but is providing actually a better community life because it's safer to walk to the store, to meet your neighbors on the way. I think in suburbia here, we're a little more isolated. We go to our home and, you know, we drive to and fro and so forth, so we're not meeting our neighbors. So I just think that's one way to encourage the climate action. I'm very happy to see that we're developing a carbon budget system that is supposed to be in place next year. And because I think that, you know, the dollar budget that you're wrestling with right now has to be parallel to a carbon budget, weighing what are we spending on carbon rather, as well as what we're spending on you know, in dollars and cents. So that's a really a good step forward. We're supposed to be net zero by 2040. We're supposed to have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 45% in just the next 3 years. And I don't see that we're making the progress that we need to be making. About waste, I volunteer in a number of ways now that I'm retired. I volunteer with the Toronto Nature Stewards in Raymore Park, which was the site, as you'll know, of the devastating death toll during Hurricane Hazel, when there was a neighborhood there that was wiped out. So I volunteer there, and the first thing we do when we practice stewardship is pick up litter. And there's, of course, far too much litter. I'm glad that we're instituting this reduction of single-use plastics. That's a good thing for for the community.
5 seconds.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question
Good.
for you. Councillor Holliday?
Mr. MacLean, thank you. It's good to see you. For the benefit of my colleagues and those listening, I wanted to pick up on a point that you talked about, and that was about walkable neighborhoods. So example, the accident, the crash, I guess is the best way to describe it. It happened at Westway and Martin Grove. There's a strip plaza there.
Yeah.
Now, when I was a kid, I grew up close to where you live. We could walk down the street, and we'd go to the drugstore, we'd go to the bank, we'd go to the supermarket, the variety store. I think there was even a hardware store. That plaza is now a townhouse development, and that was done all lawfully. And we're seeing more and more of that, right? Properties that have large parking lots and have retail are often designated mixed use. And so people are developing those because you can put housing on there, you can turn a profit if you choose to sell it. But for the benefit of those listening, I mean, do we have a main street in Etobicoke Center?
We don't. We have plazas.
We have plazas, and there's few of them, and there's fewer of them. And I won't put you on the spot,
No.
but would it be worth the city and city planning to look at jurisdictions that have gone through this to understand that to have walkable neighborhoods, you have to have walkable amenities, and there needs to be protections on these type of amenities, or would you agree that it's a worthwhile endeavor to try to think about that, to think about if you're going to create housing and walkable communities, you have to have something to walk to.
Absolutely. I would be happy to work with you in planning an event with planning people. There's an amazing exhibit at the Daniels School of Architecture now about rethinking the suburbs, right. And it's full of ideas. I would urge you to try to visit it. But yes, these single story plazas are kind of an underuse of that space. I'm glad that some malls and plazas are building up, adding housing, but retaining the services, the shops and services. I know that there's displacement when that happens, but you still need those services. They have to be retained, and whether planning obligates that to happen, or does it slip away during these redevelopments? But yeah, we want more housing in the city to accommodate the crisis that we all have. And we want to prevent sprawl because that's another environmental damage.
But would you agree therein is the magic, right? When you rebuild, you don't want to replace it with cell phone repair shops and nail salons. You want to have that complete set, including grocery stores and those types of things.
Yes.
It would be I know we're straying a bit out of budget, but it does relate to the climate action plan that if we're going to be encouraging that, we've got to have those particular things.
Yeah, I'd love to know if there are legal tools to obligate that happening, to obligate like fresh food in every plaza and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any